In this week's Drive, we see how the teams decide the setup. Fall off the road at 180 miles an hour. Get a good look at a new model 3 months before launch. And see the desert bite back down under. All this and more in this week's Drive. A Formula One car isn't finished when it's finished. No matter how well the designers and engineers have built it, no car is ideal for every track straight off the factory floor. No matter how well they've perfected the center of gravity, aerodynamics and engine performance, each car will need to be fine-tuned for the driver, the track and even the weather. Racing cars have many more points of adjustment than road cars. Weight can be moved forward and back. Suspension can be made harder or softer. The angles of all four wheels can be adjusted so they lean or point in or outwards.
Of course, with the setup, it's ultimately the driver and the engineer who are responsible. But thanks to all the computers and all the tests we run, we're able to collect all of the data and to adapt it, both for other tracks and, of course, for a new car, where the computer is naturally our main source of help. Aerodynamic settings are also completely worked out by the computer and then fine-tuned a bit on the circuit by the driver and the engineer.
For example, to find the best setup for each track, engineers try out different angles on the front and rear wings. The steeper the wing, the more downforce it generates and the more drag. It's good for grip, but bad for high speeds. The trick is to find the ultimate balance between grip and speed at the front and the back.
Yeah, it's a big thing, and in fact, at the race weekend, it's quite common that they might say, you know, okay, we're struggling a bit here, and we've been using a soft setup. Let's try a stiff setup and see if actually, you know, at the moment we're concentrating on giving the tyres an easy time, and maybe we're throwing away some aerodynamic performance. And then, of course, the software that I write, if the software is perfect and you've got all the factors in there, then I should be able to tell them for a particular track whether it's best to go for a stiff setup and get the aerodynamics perfect, or a soft setup and give the tyre an easy time.
Choosing the right suspension setting, the so-called stiff or soft setup, is a fundamental part of the process. Shock absorbers have to react to bumps on the track and keep the tyres on the surface as much as possible. If they're wrong, the driver has to compensate in the way he handles the car and inevitably loses time. Even dipping under braking has to be accommodated, and the bias between the front and the rear brakes can be varied too. After every test and free practice session, data is downloaded from the car's onboard sensors and analysed, and the driver's subjective impressions are noted too. Temperatures in all components are a good indication of how each part is working, especially the tyres. It's decision time. As engineers analyse data, the technicians make smaller and smaller changes. A mixture of objective science and subjective gut feel will hopefully give a near-perfect tool for the driver to do his job. Juan Pablo prefers a car which feels right.
Well, the setup is done around the driver. I think people don't understand that sometimes. I think the setup is not about to make the car go quicker. It's more make the car comfortable for the driver. The driver is comfortable, is going to manage to go quicker. Simple.
So, theory and practice come together, hopefully in a winning combination. For example, at the recent Monaco Grand Prix, the known conditions dictated the direction the setup process would go in.
The requirements for this track are plain and simple. It's normal asphalt, just like you get on normal roads. As a result, the level of grip is very, very low, so therefore you need very soft rubber compounds. Then it's also a track with a lot of slow corners, so we need the maximum possible aerodynamic downforce. Air resistance is not important. We need every gram of downforce that can be built into the car.
Monaco is a unique track, a street race from a different era. There's no room for mistakes, as several drivers find out each year. It's hard to get data for a track like this without actually going there and racing. But without a decent setup, the driver won't be able to go as quickly as possible. and the race may even end prematurely, with some repair work for the team to do. Over at Ferrari, the quest for speed is just as fanatical. One of the key links between man and machine is the steering wheel, but like everything else in Formula One, it's only distantly related to the wheel in a road car.
Every time the driver turns the steering wheel, he runs the risk to touch this push button without his need. So we develop specifically a sort of safety in order to avoid all these kind of bad things that can happen in the car. Considering that the steering wheel is a sort of computer, this computer is programmed differently, driver by driver. And that depends by the fact that everyone prefers to play on this device in a different way. So if you see the steering wheel of Rubens and Michael, basically they are the same, but the functionality are completely different.
Ferrari's sporting director, former World Rally Champion navigator Jean Todt, has been named as the company's new managing director.
Simply the wish to be successful. You know, we do this job because we want to be successful. We love Ferrari. We are very proud to be at Ferrari. We are very happy at Ferrari. And we just have a fantastic team, and all together we aim for success. And we know that it is very difficult to remain successful. You know, that's like if you have a beautiful grass, but if you don't put water, then it gets burnt. So it's the same with us. We have always to renew the motivation to push ourselves, and I mean, what does push us is trying to achieve success.
Ferrari suffered a setback in Monaco. Schumacher's run of 5 wins in a row ground to a halt in a collision with Montoya, but Barrichello came third. In the run-up to the Monaco race, the Jaguar team made sure that they'd sparkle by embedding more than £1 million worth of diamonds in their cars. The stunt was part of a sponsorship deal for the forthcoming movie Ocean's 12, scheduled for release in December. The team carried branding for the film on the cars, mechanics' overalls and shirts. Each of the team's 4 cars had cut gems measuring about a centimetre across in the nose cone as part of a one-off sponsorship. Diamond dealer Steinmetz have cemented a sponsorship deal too and provided the stones.
Behind us, it's not a piece of jewelry, but it's a diamond on its own. It's the largest emerald cut D flawless diamond, 108 carat, which have been placed in the nose of the race car.
One of the stones would go missing on the first lap of the race when Christian Klein crashed and lost his nose cone, and no one's admitted to finding it. When the Jag was returned to the pits, having sat beside the track for 2 hours, the team found that the diamond had been lost. Contrite Klein added, "That will be the most expensive drive I've ever taken round Monte Carlo." A Jaguar spokesman said, "Someone here has walked away with more than a motor racing souvenir." You couldn't make it up. NASCAR now, and although the All-Stars Challenge is an unofficial event that doesn't count towards the championship, the winner would claim a $1 million paycheck for victory. The race was run in segments of 40, 30 and 20 laps.
If you notice, Rusty, before he got to turn 1, he jumped.
Nearly half the field was damaged on the 10th lap when Kurt Busch tried to push his teammate Greg Biffle past Matt Kenseth at over 180 miles an hour. Instead, the contact sent Biffle into the outside wall, with a large portion of the field bearing down on him. In all, 11 cars were involved, including defending race champion Jimmy Johnson, and 6 were forced to sit out the rest of the night. That list included Biffle, Busch, Kevin Harvick and Sterling Marlin, who got into the All-Stars Challenge by winning the preliminary race.
At Charlotte Motor Speedway.
With many contenders now out of the race, the battle for the $1 million winner's check came down to Matt Kenseth and Ryan Newman. Matt Kenseth drove the final 20 laps as hard as he could to chase down Newman, and with a final perfect manoeuvre, he shed his reputation as a passive driver. Kenseth moved right onto the rear bumper of Newman, but never touched him, and the replay showing just how close the pair were. With disrupted airflow and downforce at the back of his car, Newman did well to hold the car on the track. He challenged Kenseth for the lead, but to no avail.
gets that nose, gets that laid back nose up under that tail, breaks the rear tires loose. Never touched it.
Kenseth drove past with 4 laps left to win and took home the $1 million prize. He beat Newman by about 5 car lengths, with the Chevrolets of Tony Stewart, Michael Waltrip and Dale Earnhardt Jr. rounding out the top 5. Kenseth, the defending champion, had only 1 victory during his conservative run to the title, but he came into 2004 seemingly determined to alter his image. He won 2 of the first 3 races in dominating fashion, then struggled a bit over the next several races, but now this triumph sees him on the upswing again. Here it is, the all-new BMW 1 Series. Preceding its first public appearance at the Paris Motor Show in September this year, BMW has released information and the first official footage of the new 1 Series, which will rival vehicles like the Alfa Romeo 147, Volkswagen Golf and Audi A3 in the premium compact market. But unlike other small premium cars, the 1 Series has rear-wheel drive, which should offer a much more involving drive than most front-wheel drive cars, and this unique feature is likely to be a big talking point. The new Beamer's design, with a long wheelbase, short front overhang, a low sporty roofline and the traditional C-pillar kink, also features the characteristic kidney grille and 3 Series-inspired double headlamps. The 1.6-litre engine from the 116i sounds very similar to the engine found in the Mini Cooper. It produces 85 kilowatts and 150 newton-meters of torque, and helps the 116i get from standstill to 100 kilometers an hour in 10.8 seconds, with a top speed of 200 kilometers an hour. The 2-litre 4-cylinder 120i will accelerate to 100 kilometers an hour in 8.7 seconds with a top speed of 217 kilometers an hour. European drivers will be able to choose from a couple of diesel models, including the 118D. A 118i with BMW's 1.8-litre Valvetronic engine will follow later. Some of the features that 1 Series owners can select include an optional Bluetooth mobile interface, park distance control front and rear, bi-xenon headlamps, and high-end audio and navigation systems that can be operated by voice control using BMW's controversial iDrive system. The body has a low 0.29 drag coefficient, and at the rear, a practical hatch opens to reveal a variable luggage compartment that offers the driver and passengers between 330 and 1,150 litres of storage space, depending on how the seats are folded. The 1 Series features anti-theft security, push-button starting, and a full range of active and passive safety features, including front and rear head airbags and all sorts of electricery to keep the car on the straight and narrow. BMW claims that the 1 Series is the only car in its class to offer rear-wheel drive, 6-speed gearboxes in both manual and automatic, and run-flat tyres on the 16-inch wheels. Putting all the mechanical parts into a smaller shell was a challenge, but it was important that the new car was different enough to the Mini, also built by BMW, that the company wouldn't be in competition with itself. Besides the hatchback, I reckon there will be some other models on the same basic underpinnings, badged as 1 and 2 Series. The 1 Series includes the hatchbacks and 4-door sedans, while the sporty coupes and convertibles will be badged as 2 Series in much the same way as the 5 Series and the 6 Series. Though both are built on the same platform and feature the same engines, they are quite different. That said, I expect there will be a 3-door hatchback, a 4-door sedan, a 2-door coupe and a 5-door station wagon. With the 1 Series, the company heads in a new direction, one that could really accelerate in the next 3 years, selling in volumes that BMW has never seen before. We head off to Australia now for the 6th Warn Winches Outback Challenge. The event brought together 50 four-wheel drive teams from around the world to tackle all that the rugged Australian outback could throw at them in what was touted as one sheer week of hell. Drivers from the United Kingdom, France and New Zealand took on the local drivers in the ultimate four-wheel drive contest. The teams have to drive and survive on all the surfaces the outback has: sand, mud, rocks, gravel and river crossings. There are winch and recovery tests and functions like navigation and map reading. The Outback Challenge finds the 4x4 team who can best handle different surfaces and demonstrate the skills you need to drive and survive in the back of Beyond. Standard vehicles would die early on the Outback Challenge, so the vehicles are modified with increased ground clearance, uprated suspension and strengthened underbody protection, and they need it. Teams that did well were those able to pace themselves and show vehicle recovery and navigation ability. Here's that sinking feeling for the yellow submarine of Matt Bolger and Clayton Blackmore. The Nissan was recovered and continued in the challenge, finishing 25th. Amazingly, only 4 cars failed to complete the Outback Challenge, many teams undertaking tyre changes and mechanical repairs of all kinds just to keep going. It's not about driving quickly, as Darren Green and Sandy Bauman found when they crashed their Nissan, fortunately without injury. Green, Sandy, these guys seem born to compete in off-road challenges. It's a long way to the nearest spares dealer or engineering workshop, so Ron Hall resorted to bush mechanic methods to straighten a bent tie rod. Despite this minor hiccup, the New Zealand team of Bruce Hughes and Blair Howden won some stages in their first attempt at the Outback Challenge and nearly showed the Aussies how to do it, finishing 4th. The Pulamaka section had rocky gorges and water-filled creeks which tested the vehicles to the utmost. The Deneen provided sandy wastes, testing the team's recovery and sand driving skills, but Australia's ongoing drought meant that the Veldt had only limited muddy areas. Each group completed the day's tests and then travelled on an overnight navigation stage to the next destination. Hitting the track hard were the French team of Renaud Fauvel and Christian Delestre, and the impact bent the diff in their Toyota. Winching skills got plenty of practice as Steve Hobbs and Clinton Leask pulled their Nissan out of trouble. The last day brought all the top teams together in a final shootout, and after 7 days of hell, teammates Steve Chapkema and Stephen Hudson combined their skills and the power of their Range Rover to emerge as narrow winners in front of a similar Range Rover of Chris Hummer and Neil Cooper. Third place went to Cass Jones and Brad Scott in a Nissan Patrol from Western Australia. The 22nd International Jordan Rally was to prove historic. Oman's Hamid Al-Wahibi and his Irish co-driver Alan Harriman led by 7 minutes and 20 seconds going into the final televised special stage. Jordanian Maruf Abu Samra had held a solid second place until the road section after the Dead Sea special stage, when he was sidelined with a broken differential. Another local, Amjad Farah, became the first Jordanian driver to win the Jordan Rally with a dramatic win on the final spectator stage. Farah and co-driver Khaled Zakaria, who won the event in 2001 with Mohammed bin Sulayem, inherited second behind Al-Wahabi. Sheikh Khalid Al-Qasimi thumped a large rock on stage 10 but limped on to finish third. Cypriot Andreas Suloftus stayed in contention for the Middle East title by taking second place in his Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 7. In the spectator stage at Amman Exhibition Centre, Al-Wahabi's Mitsubishi spluttered to a halt on one of the final corners of the stage with a blown engine. And the Omani could only watch in agony as Farah coasted through to a last gasp win.
Is it my fault? Engine.
Al-Qasimi takes a 4-point lead into the all-tarmac 5th round of the series in Lebanon. Jordan's Basha Bustami came out of retirement to take 4th position. Amjad Farah and co-driver Khaled Zakaria claimed the win by 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Suloftus finished second and also moved ahead of Alatia into second in the point standings. Al-Qasimi and Michael Orr were another 3 minutes adrift in third place. 5 female drivers were among the 50 teams competing. After a short break, motocross was back at Lichtenvoorde in the Netherlands for the first time since 1996 for the Grand Prix of Benelux. As a result, the track was new to most of the riders, and they soon discovered that it was sand, sand and more sand. Joel Smets fell off and had to settle for 5th place despite starting from pole position. As the race progressed, it was a close-run affair, but Stefan Everts eventually held on to cross the line first, just over a second ahead of KTM's Steve Ramon, with Cedric Malot of Yamaha and Suzuki's Kevin Strijbos 3rd and 4th to make an all-Belgian sweep of the results. The second race was also dominated by the Belgian contingent, and once again Everts was the man to watch, but this time around his performance was even more spectacular. He finished over 14 seconds ahead of second-place Malot and Strijbos 3rd, a further 4 seconds adrift. The weather was ideal, dry and sunny for both races, and most of the riders enjoyed the design of the track. With a couple of spectacular jumps in the sandpit and some fast banked corners, the track offered many possibilities for overtaking. Brian Jorgensen, winner of the last Grand Prix, was not there, however, after dislocating his shoulder in free practice. With Everts winning again, it was a day for Belgian motocross fans to celebrate. The result confirms father-to-be Everts at the top of the overall standings, in defence of his title and on track for his 8th world crown. And finally, anyone who thought that Germans lacked a sense of humour should have been in Leipzig recently. Crowds turned out to watch a race which had no winners or losers. The main purpose of the day was simply to have fun. Or maybe it was a way of overcoming their disappointment at being knocked out of the running to host the Olympics in 8 years' time. Whatever, warm weather added to a great family day out in the sun, as hundreds of cheering spectators lined up by the course along the downward slope of the Fokkerberg, an artificial pile of rubble left after World War II. Porsche's entry, a sleek one-seater, a so-called soap board, was produced by Porsche Engineering and has participated in various charity events for orphans in the United States. And this was its first race in Europe. The 13th Soapbox Derby was organised by a Leipzig cultural centre and consisted of various disciplines such as pushing soapboxes uphill, downhill with the aid of a ramp, and a time trial on top of the Fokkerberg Peak. Some showed more imagination than engineering skills. This entry was completed on the morning of the event, but it didn't stay the course and was destined to need many running repairs during the day. Some racers looked like they'd done this sort of thing before, although the crowd control wasn't up to Formula One standards. A local policeman produced his speed-checking radar gun, but he didn't issue a single ticket. So, no matter whether you're sinking, unveiling a new car, or winning in the desert, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.